Well, hello, everybody. We are working on, or I am working on, getting let me get this glare off of here. We're going to be looking at a slow playthrough for the Fall Classic baseball board game. And the game I'm going to choose to do the slow playthrough with is the opening day game of 1979 between the Cincinnati Reds and the San Francisco Giants. The game itself is not that important. It's trying to show people who've never seen the game or barely seen the game, show them how to play the game. So it's more of the mechanics, not the actual game itself, although we will use the game itself to play out the mechanics. And hopefully by playing a game, we'll hit most of the high points of things I think you need to know if you are interested in this game. And anything that's not covered, I'll try to do a covering shortly. This is the prelude to my NBC Game of the Week, which will start on Saturday. I believe it's April the 4th, with the 1979 Fall Classic season. So that's the prelude for this. So one of the nice things that comes with the Fall Classic set, while you're waiting for it to come to you in the mail, because from what I understand is they don't print these until you order them. So once you order them, then they send it off to their printer or do whatever they got to do. That's why it takes almost 2 weeks to get your cards. But in the meantime, they send you a PDF of that season, so that if you want to print out or just play it off your computer, you can see the cards ahead of time. You can also print out, which I think is very important, are the team information sheets. I don't want to call them defensive sheets because there's other information besides defense. There's also pitching and whatnot. So you can print these off. Now the logos I added myself with the PDF editor. You don't get, because they can't do the logos for obvious reasons. But you can print off the team information sheets, and that saves you the trouble of having to write in the defensive ratings for everybody. You can just get them off the sheet. And so I like to keep these sheets off to the side at a moment's notice so I can reach them. The mechanics of the game are similar to APA. If you're familiar with APA, it's a lot of similarities there. 2d6 roll, and you read them kind of in APA style. The colored die, whether it's red, blue, whatever color you want, is the 10s, and the white die is the 1s. So if we look at, say, this one right here, that would be read as a 23. And basically, let me get a batter card up here. The 23 is either going to be on the batter card or the pitcher card. In this, some of the batter cards have blanks where you go to the pitcher card. In this case, it would just be a strikeout because he's got a K right there on his card. But say, for instance, we rolled a 34. Let's look at 34. If you look at Bill North's card on 34, it is blank. Well, that didn't resolve anything. So when it's not resolved on the batter card, you go to the pitcher card. 34 for Tom Seaver. Well, we have to figure out what grades you want to call him. Some people play it where they just use the B grades, which are his average grades, and leave it at that. Some people roll a D20 before the game starts to figure out what kind of stuff he has, and that determines which column you go to. So if he has A stuff, it would be an out. If he has his B stuff or his C stuff, it would be a base hit in that situation. So that's the basic mechanic of how the actual individual play is done. And sometimes you do need the D20 to figure out if there's a split here, you figure that out. Or if not, you can use the D20 to determine what kind of an out it is. So let's say, for instance, Tom Seaver is on his A grades. We roll a 34. Bill North, blank. We go to Tom Seaver under his A grades. It's an out. Well, what kind of an out? We don't know. Well, there's a 9 right there. If you go to the out chart, bases empty out chart, under a 9, it says fly out to right field, and there's your out. You could also use the fast action cards that you can purchase. I think you can even download some on the PDF. I'm not sure, for free. But if you purchase the fast action cards, you can flip a fast action card, and that'll tell you what kind of out it was. But I prefer the charts based on what the D20 says. I think you get more variety that way, at least my personal opinion. All right, so that's how a basic at-bat is done in Fall Classic. It's like I said, if you're familiar with APA at all, it's kind of like APA and Strat had a baby kind of thing. So, but it's more heavily into APA. The only thing that really gets it from Strat are the splits. That's kind of a Strat thing. But most of the other thing being 11 to 66, that's right down the alley of APA, and that's what we're going to have. That's what you're going to have. All right, so we also have a ballpark card. If you want to figure out how ballparks come into play, anytime you roll a 46, so if you roll a 46, that's going to take us to the ballpark, and that's on everybody's card. It doesn't matter who. I'll bring it up a little closer so you can see it. 46 is the ballpark. So go to the ballpark card, and the D20 again is going to determine what it is. So let's just, for instance, roll it. We get an 11. Okay. So we're going to check Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati and an 11. And who's batting? Well, Bill North is batting. He's a switch hitter, but against Tom Seaver, he bats left. So we're looking in this column on Riverfront Stadium under an 11. And that says 7 to 14 is a foul ball. So that means it's a foul ball. We're going to roll again. If you roll a 15 to 16, it's a foul out. But according to this, there's not much foul territory in Riverfront Stadium. So you're more likely to foul it into the seats rather than foul it to the infielders where they can grab it. So in that case, it's just a foul ball, and we move on. Had the D20 been a 1, then that would have been a home run. So that is how the ballpark comes into play. In case you're curious, I do have the game ready to score, but I'm not worried about accoutrements or anything in this game. I'm not even worried about the game itself, the outcome of the game itself. This is mainly, like I said, for tutorial purposes. So I think, let me get this down here. I think I can go here and still show the ballpark card, hopefully. Hopefully that works out. All right, so that's what we got. And again, these are the only dice you are actually going to need. All right, so what else is there? Well, there are defensive checks. When you get a 51, 52, or 53 on the 2d6s, we get a 51. Let's start with a 51. You get a 51 on a batter's card. You can see on the batter card here, let me get up a little closer so you can see it. 51 through 53 says KD question mark defense. All right, now what's the KD question mark? Each pitcher has a strikeout rating on his card known as the KD. And there's a range number here. Usually under the A grade, it's a higher number than it is on the other grades. So in this case, under Tom Seaver, had we rolled a 51 and he's on his A grades, and we roll a 3 on top of that for the D20, we would not go to the defensive chart because this 3 would fall into his KD rating, and that would turn to a strikeout. He would avoid having to go to a defensive check. But say the D20 was 19 or 9 even, it surpasses the KD, and that way would go straight to a defensive check. The way you do a defensive check, you take all these dice, re-roll them again. It was a 51, so we're under the error chance. So we're going to roll the dice. We get a 36. 36 tells us on the chart it's a possible single, a 2-star single. That is a 12. I'm sorry, not 2-star single. My bad. First base. I'm thinking base hit, not error. 36 means we're checking the first baseman's error chance. First baseman's error chance. First baseman for the Cincinnati Reds happens to be Dan Dreesen. So if we look at the team sheet under first base for Dan Dreesen, his error is a 7. His error is a 7. So if we roll a 1 to 7, he will commit an error. 8 or higher, he's going to make the play. The D20 was a 12, so that means he makes the play. And if he makes the play, it tells you what to do based on the base runners if the play is made. If it's a man on first, and first base only. If the D20 is odd, it's a double play. If it's even, it's a fielder's choice. The bases are empty. It doesn't tell you any, if there's nobody on, it just makes the play. But that's how defensive plays work. They have to pass what is known a KD check. So if the KD overrides it, if that D20 is small enough to fit in, we don't go to the defensive check. We go straight to the strikeout and call it a day. But if it's not, then we go to our defensive check. They have another one called the 54 chart. So if you see here, 51 through 53 on the batter cards is the defensive check possibility. A 54 is what it says it is, a 54 chart. Well, what the heck is a 54 chart? Well, the 54 chart talks about possibilities of either wild pitches if men are on base, or if men are not on base, you get kind of some unusual plays. So let's say Bill North is batting, and we get a 54. So that would be 54. Bill North is batting, 54. I'll roll the D20 just to give us something. We'll get a 2 here, okay? All right, so we go to 54, and it's based on how the bases are, where in our case, the bases are empty. So we're not checking for any wild pitches. But we're under what's called a wild chart. Since the D20 was a 2, we're looking under this wild chart under the 1 through 6, and it says fly ball, refer to the D20. The 1 or 2 means it's a left fielder. So we're checking the left fielder in this case, since that's a 2. And it says now roll versus the E rating for an error. And if an error, go to the exotic error chart. Otherwise, it's a flyout. So we're checking the left fielder. In this case, that is George Foster for the Reds. So we go to George Foster's error rating. His error rating is a 4. His error rating is a 4. So we're going to roll on the D20 to check and see if it's an error. It's a 16, so it is not an error. It's greater than the 4. The only way he makes an error is on a 1 through 4, but since that was a 16, he would just make the fly out, and that would take care of it. If a runner's on base, that's when the 54 chart brings in things like wild pitches and pass balls. And if we get to that, hopefully in the game we'll get to that, and you can see that part in action. All right, so hopefully that's enough groundwork to get us started. I do have, and I suggest if you're going to use the charts, I have a if I'm playing on my own offline, I don't think, for this purpose, I'm not going to use it because I don't think it will show up very easily, because I want to show the results all the time. But when I'm playing on my own, I do have a binder which has all the outs in it. Out runner at first, out all the base situations. So basically what I would do to start the game is I would have this chart out open, out bases empty chart, and be ready to go, and also have my defensive chart handy and everything else. But since I'm doing this on the video, it's going to be awful tough to get that thing in there. So I'm just going to have these things loose, but have them in order by base running advancement, and I'll just have them ready to go. I have my defensive chart separated so I can find it very easily, and my 54 chart will be separated so I can find that very easily, and hopefully that will expedite things so that you can see it clearly and not be too confused, hopefully. And if there are veteran Fall Classic players out there, please let me know if I make a mistake, because I'm somewhat of a novice in this game. I played it a couple years ago, then got away from it. I was using the fast action cards, but then I got to playing it now with the dice and with the charts, and it's just given me a new lease on life for this game. So that's why I'm choosing it for the NBC game of the week, for that very, very reason. So, all right. So I think with all those preambles, we're actually going to be ready to start a game. So the first thing we're going to do is go to bullpen sessions for both starting pitchers. Bullpen sessions. And if we look at, say, Tom Seaver again, we're going to roll the D20. If the D20 is a 1 to 6, he will be on his A grades for this game. If it's a 7 to 14, he'll be on his B grades. 15 to 20 is on his C grades. That is a single D20 roll. So for Tom Seaver, he is a 17. He's on his C grades. He is on the C grades. So what I'm going to do to remind myself is put a C on the score sheet, but I could put a token here, but that's going to be an awful lot of hard to do it when I'm trying to maneuver stuff around. So we're going to remember that Tom Seaver's on his C grades. Now Vita Blue, same process. Roll his D20. He's an 8, so he's on his B grades. So Vita Blue is on his average grades. Tom Seaver is on his not so good grades. So we know that Tom Seaver is on his not so good grades and Vita Blue is on his average grades. So with that information in tow, we are now ready to get going and start this slow playthrough. This might be an hour-and-a-half video. I'm not rushing this. I'm going to take my time and try to cover as much as I possibly can. And anything the playthrough doesn't cover, I'm going to go back and cover separately. So starting off would be Bill North against Tom Seaver. These are the as-played lineups for opening day 1979. So Bill North, a switch-hitting center fielder, will lead off against Seaver. And remember, Seaver is in column number C for his B grades. For his C grades, rather. And the first pitch, we go. It's a 22. Doubles, much like in APA, doubles are usually good for the batter. In this case, we get a 22, and that is a walk. And you notice here on Bill North, there is a plus sign on the 22. That means he has to steal. Auto stealing, if you use it, you're going to go by these plus signs. Anytime he has a plus sign, that means he gets the chance to steal. If you look at his numbers, he stole 58 bases out of 82 tries. So when you see that's why all these pluses. In fact, there's a double plus up here, which means he gets a chance to steal second and third on that single. But here on the walk, he gets 1 plus, which means he's going to get a chance to steal. Now, there's several factors on doing steals. Some people play it where you have to get the jump. I don't do that. I play auto steals. So if the game gives the guy an auto steal, I'm not going to take that away by pitcher hold or anything like that. We're just going by strictly by the base running situation. Now, the only thing that's going to affect that is the arm of the catcher, Johnny Bench. If he has a strong arm, that will deduct some of his base running, his base stealing prowess. But according to this, he's got an average arm. You see A for average on his arm. So he's an average arm, which means he is not going to affect Bill North. So Bill North, his stolen base number is a 14, which simply means if you roll a D20 and you get a 1 to 14, he successfully steals. If it's a 15 or higher, he is thrown out. So we roll the D20. It's a 5. He's in there with a stolen base. So it's a walk plus a steal. Walk plus a stolen base for Bill North. And I'm actually scoring this on the Action PC computer so I don't mess up the number of outs or whatever. So he gets a walk and he also steals second base. So Bill North is at second base with nobody out. And Terry Whitfield is the batter. And there is a separate section dedicated to stolen bases. And it's right here. It says you can call your own or you can do auto stealing. And just follow this example and the rules, and you can go by that. So that's just for base stealing purposes. If depending on how you want to play it, it's a customizable game. You can play it the way you wish. Like I said, I use the auto steals. So now Terry Whitfield is your batter. Terry Whitfield. And if you're wondering about left-right splits in this game, they are not very robust, but every player pretty much has at least one, which is the 26 roll. And that says Terry Whitfield is a left-handed batter. So if the pitcher throws right-handed, that's what the TR means, throws right-handed. If you roll a 26 and he's facing a right-handed pitcher, he will get a single. If he's facing a lefty, he would be out. So it takes away a hit from the lefty. Some extreme splits will also have that in 25. But here, 25, he's out regardless. But there is a lefty-righty split there. in case you were curious. Like I said, it's not very robust. It's only on the 26 and sometimes on the 25. All right, so we got North at second, nobody out. Here's the at bat for Terry Whitfield. It's a 63. We go to Whitfield. 63 is a blank. So that means we're going over to Tom Seaver's 63 under his C grade, and that's an out. If he was an A grade, a 1 through 8 on the D20 would give him a strikeout, but instead this is a straight old out, and that's a 20. So we're going to go to the out chart with a runner at second base and see what the number 20 gives us for an out. And that's simply based on the chart, out at second chart, and we look at a 20. The 20 says it's a line out based on what the white die is. The white die is a 3. So that means it's a line out to first base. Line out to first base. We're gonna re-roll the D20 because there's a chance for a double play on this line out, but you have to roll a 2. So we're gonna re-roll the D20, see if we get a 2 or not. We do not, so it's not doubled off. It is simply a line out to first base that Dreesen will snag. Out number 1. Runner on second, Bill North, saw what was coming, didn't get doubled off, so he goes back to second base and stays right there with 1 out. That'll bring up Bill Madlock, who will later get traded to the Pirates, but right now he starts the season with the Giants. Runner still at second, 1 out. We get a 12. A 12 is an out X. Now the X adds in possibilities of double play ground balls. But in our situation with the runner at second, there is no double play grounder to worry about. It's just an out, and the D20 is a 16. So again, we go back to the out at second chart. Look at the 16, and it says ground out, short to first, with the runner advancing. So in this case, even though it's hit to shortstop, the runner does take third base. So 6-3 ground out with the runner advancing to third. Now they're a 2 away with the runner at third base, and that's going to bring up Jack Clark. Clark stepping to the plate with a runner at third now, so we need to get the runner on third out chart ready to go. We had the runner on second out chart, but now with the base running situation changing, we bring it to the runner on third out chart. Runner on third, got that handy. Jack Clark against Tom Seaver. We get a 26 after that left-right split we were talking about. Well, Jack Clark is a right-handed hitter. Seaver's a right-handed pitcher. So the single that's showing here is only effective if the pitcher throws left-handed. Since Seaver's throwing right-handed, that is an out. That is an out. And the D20 is a 15. So the 15 says if it's a right-handed batter, he grounds out to third. And that's going to be the end of the inning. And Tom Seaver gets out of the mess on that ground ball to third. And we go to the bottom of the first, no score. From Cincinnati, as I think the locals say, Cincinnati. So Vida Blue, he's on his B grades. And he'll start out facing Ken Griffey to start the bottom of the first inning. Ken Griffey. So lefty-lefty matchup. So if Griffey gets that 26, that single will be taken away because the pitcher has to throw right-handed. So Blue, 61 is blank for Ken Griffey. So we go to Blue, 61, and that is a strikeout under his B grades. So that will be a strikeout. Vida Blue puts away Ken Griffey with a strikeout. And that's the first out of the inning. That'll bring up Dave Concepcion, number 2 hitter. Number 2 hitter, Dave Concepcion, shortstop. We get a 65, and that's a home run check. Home run check. Now, if a batter had weak power, not very many home runs, there would be a negative number attached to this. But Concepcion had 16 home runs, so he's got to use the Strat-O-Matic term, he's got normal power. So it's just straight out home run P. Well, what does home run P mean? Well, we go to Vida Blue, look under his B grades, and his home run number is 1 to 13. That means if the D20 is a 1 to 13, it's a home run. The D20 is an 11, so that's gone. Dave Concepcion has just hit a home run off of Vida Blue to give the Reds a 1 to nothing lead. Again, had Concepcion been somebody with not much power, there might have been, say, a -4 here, which would have changed Vida Blue from a 13 to a 9, and then the 11 would have fell out of the range, and when you fail the home run, it is a fly to center. But in this case, Concepcion had the normal power, and he takes advantage of it, and the Cincinnati Reds grab a 1 to nothing lead. Again, the score of the game and everything is irrelevant. I'm trying to show the mechanics of the game. But I want to show it not just in a tutorial, but I want to show it in action. So I think the best way to learn a game is to watch it played or actually play it yourself. But in this case, watching this. Here's Joe Morgan, 53. So 51 through 53 again. 51 through 53 is a possible defensive check, but we're looking at the KD question mark. So we look at the D20. That's an 18. Vida Blue's KD rate is only a 1 to 3. So that means 18, we will go to the defensive chart. It is a 53. So with the 53, 53 denotes a range check. So we're going to re-roll all the dice. The 2d6s will tell us who we're checking the range on. So that's a 42. 42 says we're checking the second baseman for a range check. If he fails it, it would be an infield single. So we're going to the second baseman for the Giants, and in this case, that is Bill Madlock. So we look at Bill Madlock's range rating. He's only a 1 range. So the only way he gets to this is if the D20 is a 1. Otherwise, it's going to get by him for a hit. You want your range numbers to be as close to 20 as possible. Obviously, Madlock had very little range at second base. So that's a 16. So probably most people wouldn't have made that range play anyway on a 16 because that would have been higher than most people's range. But in this case, Joe Morgan gets himself an infield single. Now you say, why don't you steal with Joe Morgan? Well, there wasn't any kind of plus sign there. So I'm using the auto stealing. So we're going to just follow what the auto stealing says. But in the meantime, Joe Morgan gets the base hit. So Morgan's at first base, and we bring up George Foster. Now, had runners been on base with that defensive check, it would have been an infield single, 1 star, so the batters only get 1 base, much like Strat-O-Matic, get the 1 base on that. So, but now runners at first with 1 out. So we make sure we have our runner on first out chart handy, ready to go, just in case. And here's George Foster. Foster, the left fielder and cleanup hitter for the Reds. We get a 35 under Foster, and that is a blank. So we go over to Vida Blue. His B grades, 35 is an out. That's a 10. So what kind of out is it? We go to our out chart, runner at first, look at the 10, and it says line out, white die. The white die is a 5, so it's a line out to third base. It doesn't mention anything about a possible double play, so it's just going to be a line out to third base. Foster lines it to the third baseman, Darrell Evans, for out number 2, and that's going to bring up Johnny Bench. So Johnny Bench steps to the plate with 2 outs, and Morgan still at first base. And Bench will swing away. 43 is going to be blank on Johnny Bench. We go over to Vida Blue. 43 is going to be a walk. This middle section of card is control section. Most pitchers will have a lot of walks here, and he, in fact, has it. Now, had he been on his A grade, that would have been an out. But under B grade, it's just simply a walk. So a 2-out walk, and that's going to put runners at first and second as Morgan trots down to second base. And Johnny Bench trots down to first with a free pass. So first and second, 2 outs now for Dan Dreesen, the first baseman. So now we need to go to our runners on first and second out chart. Get that handy. So we've got this handy, runners at first and second. Runners at first and second, so we'll get that chart handy. Here's Dan Dreesen. We get a 15. Dreesen, that's an out. That's a 9. So we go to out chart first and second, a 9. It's a fly out to right field. Runners hold. White die 1, and fast or average runner on second would take third, but there's already 2 outs. So it's irrelevant. It's just a fly out, and it's going to end the inning. But the Reds do come through with a run based on the home run from Concepcion, and they take a 1-0 lead after 1. And we switch back over to the Giants. See if they can make up some ground here on Seaver and his C grades. And leading off will be third baseman Darrell Evans. We get a 62. That is blank on Darrell Evans. We come up receiver, C grade 62. Even though he's on a C grade, it's still a strikeout. The K is right there, so he gets the strikeout. And that is the first strikeout for Tom Seaver on the day. 1 away, and here comes Mike Ivy, first baseman. See what he can do against Mr. Seaver. We get a 13. 13 is an out X. So we'll see what that means when we get to the D20. The D20 is a 3. So we go to the bases empty chart. And an out X with a 3. The 3 is a ground ball. He is a right-handed hitter, so it's a ground ball to third. So the X in this case didn't mean anything. Nobody on base. It's simply a ground ball to third. And there's 2 away. Two up, 2 down. And that will take us to the catcher, Mark Hill. And on his card, Mark Hill, this side of the card tells you the way he bats, and this side of the card tells you how fast he is. He's actually a slow runner. You would see F. You would see A for average, slow for slow. There's also a F plus, means he's really fast. But that's kind of what the card is. I didn't really go over the actual player card. I probably should have in the beginning. He's got his sacrifice bunt rating. We got his hit and run rating, and his stolen base chances. Means he stole one. He attempted 1 steal and got caught. So there's nothing on here about. See right here. If he gets if he rolls a 44 and the D20 is a 3 to 7, that would mean he would single and he would have to steal, but he would automatically be out because it'd be a 0 there. But it would capture his caught stealing. That's the only way to do it. And it also gives his pass ball rating and his defensive ratings for range, arm, and error, plus his actual stats on that season. So that's kind of the information you get on that card, to be more specific. And I'll do more specific here on Seaver, too, to get over the pitcher card a little bit better. It shows his wild pitch rating, his hit by pitch rating, the number of batters he can face in as a starter. I'm not sure why it's got BFR for relief, because according to this, he didn't have any relief appearances, so I'm not sure what that's there for. It gives his defensive rating as well as same as on the team sheet, but if you want on the card, it's right here, 12A and 9. And it gives his record: 32 starts, 9 complete games, 215 innings pitched, 131 strikeouts. His record is 16-6. It doesn't give ERA, it gives WHIP. But if you want the ERA, it's on the team sheet. But on the individual card, it's under that. And this also tells you if you want to use the generic batting cards instead of his own pitcher hitting card, he uses pitcher hitting card number 4, and also tells you he throws right-handed. And I believe that is his age, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So that all went there. Now let's go to Mark Hill and see if we can finish the inning. We get a 33. Like I said, doubles are usually good, and he's going to draw a base on balls. There's no plus sign or anything there, so he is not forced to try to steal. He just takes the walk. It's a 2-out walk to Mark Hill. So Hill is aboard with 2 outs for the shortstop, Roger Metzger. Metzger, switch hitting shortstop. That's a 65. 65, and you can see here 65 normally for most batters, 65 is a home run chance. But since Roger Metzger did not hit any home runs at all in the real season, that's 65. He has 0 home runs. That 65 actually turns to a straight-O out, and it's an 8. So we go to our runner on first chart, out chart, with an 8, and it's a fly out to center field. And that will end the inning. So that's one where the guy has absolutely no power whatsoever. So rather than even take a chance that he might reach on there, they just give him an out right off the bat. And that takes care of the Giants here in the top of the second. We go to the bottom of the second. 1-0 Reds, although again, like I said, the score of the game is actually irrelevant. So it's Rick Auerbach. He is going to play third base. Ray Knight's on the roster. He gets most of the games at third, but on opening day they started Rick Auerbach at third. He will lead things off, followed by Geronimo, the center fielder, and then the pitcher, Tom Seaver. Whoa, we got a hop and dice, so we got to have all 3 dice in the tray. Let's try that again. That's a 54, so we're going to our 54 chart. Nobody's on base, so we're going to start out with the empty, bases empty wild. And look at the D20. The D20 is an 18. It says here, 16 through 18. Strike 3 if catcher range rating is a G as he frames the pitch. Well, let's look at the catcher rating on Johnny Bench. Probably easier to show it on his card than it is on the team defensive sheets. He actually has an N range rating, not a G range rating. He's an N. All right, so it doesn't frame the pitch based on having a G range rating. So we continue. Ball 4, if the catcher range rating is a B. Well, he doesn't have a B. He's got an N. Home end gets strike 3. Away end gets ball 4. So Bench is an N, but since he's at home, he gets the strikeout. So that's kind of a way to get the home field advantage in there. And I'm sorry, no, it's not Bench. It is, I got confused. It is not Bench. It is Mark Hill. My bad. I was going all over the place here. He is a range rating of N, but since he's the visiting catcher, it's going to be a walk. He will not get the frame job. So that's the home field advantage going to the batter, Rick Auerbach. So Auerbach will get the walk because he's at home, and the Giant catcher checking his N rating by being on the road, he's going to issue the walk. So Auerbach reaches, and that brings up Cesar Geronimo. So for Geronimo, a 14 for Geronimo is an out. That's a 16. We go to the runner on out or out at first runner chart. Runner on first out chart. 16. 16 is going to be a ground out to short. White die 1. Runner advances. No, the white die is not a 1. Let's see. Strong arm shortstop starts a 6-4-3 double play. So the white die is not a 1, so the runner doesn't advance. It would be a fielder's choice ground out, but a strong arm at shortstop would start a double play. Well, let's look at the shortstop. In this case, Roger Metzger. His arm rating at shortstop is A for average. So he does not start the double play. It'll simply be a fielder's choice. So it's going to be a 6-4 fielder's choice. Had the white die been a 1, then Geronimo would be out and Auerbach would have went to second. But it's a fielder's choice because it was not a 1 on the white die. So we get a fielder's choice ground out. It's going to go 6-4. They get the lead dog. Geronimo now the runner at first with 1 out for Tom Seaver. And now this is the perfect time to bunt. So the bunt chart, we'll pull that out. Basically, you're there with the hit and run and everything else. We've got a hit and run chart, and we got bunting. So let me get back to the screen so I can see what I'm looking at here. All right, so we got the bunt chart. So the bunt is handled, and I do it this way. You can do it however you wish to do it, but basically, well, first of all, we're going to look at the bunt rating of the batter. Sacrifice hit rating of the batter. He's a 5. Okay, so we got that established. All right, now it says there are 2 rolls of the D6 needed to resolve the bunt. If the D6 is less than or equal to the batter's sacrifice hit rating, the first roll, then the batter gets the bunt down. So we're going to roll a D6. We see his sacrifice is a 5. So if we get a 5 or less, that means he gets the bunt down. And he gets the bunt down. Now, after getting the bunt down, it says if it's greater than the sacrifice hit rating, it's a strikeout. Well, if we'd rolled a 6, it would have been a strikeout. Second roll, see if it's a good sacrifice. If greater than the sacrifice hit rating, the lead runner is out. So we're going to roll again. If it's a 1 to 5, he gets the bunt down successfully. And he does. And also on that first roll, which I believe was I should have paid attention to what the first roll was. Now I don't remember what it was. Because the first roll tells you who fields it. I'm thinking it was, I want to say it was a 2, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But when you check that's one thing I forgot. When you check to see if it gets the bunt down, you also use that die to determine where the ball went. It's really irrelevant in this case because I'm doing an exhibition. I'm not doing, defensive stats or anything. So I'm going to say it's a sacrifice hit that went back to the pitcher. So we're going to do a 1 to 4 sacrifice. And Geronimo will take second base. So I got ahead of myself there and forgot to check who the ball went to based on that D6 roll. That's something you would normally do. But bottom line is the bunt is down and Geronimo is at second base. That's the important part of the whole process. And had we rolled a 6 right off the bat, that would have been a strikeout. But he did get the bunt down because he had a 5 bunt rating. And now the runner's at second with 2 outs for Ken Griffey. That's a 64. That's a blank on Griffey. Vita Blue's on his B grades. A 64 is an out. That's a 13. We go to runner on second because he went second on the bunt. So we pull out runner on second and look at number 13. Runner on second, 13. He's a left-handed batter, means he grounds to first. First base unassisted. Runners would advance, but with the third out of the inning, it doesn't matter. So it's first baseman unassisted by Mike Ivey. He makes the play, and the inning is over. And the Reds come away empty-handed this inning, do not score. And at the end of 2 completed, Cincinnati 1 and San Francisco nothing. So we start at the top of the third. And we look at Vita Blue. He is the leadoff hitter. Vita Blue. And actually, Vita Blue is a switch hitter. BB, switch hitter. But against Seaver, the righty, he's going to bat left-handed. Because even the pitchers get that 26. And since he is a switch hitter, in fact, I'll show it here, he automatically gets the hit no matter who he faces because he's a switch hitter. So that's why it just says single, does not say TL or TR. Because he is a switch hitter, he gets it automatically, even as a pitcher. So here's Seaver, 55, and that's an out X. That's a 2. We go to the bases empty out chart. A 2 is a pop out to the white die, which is a 5. So it's pop out to third. Pop out to third. Pop out to third. I'm trying to now make sure I get this straight because I'm thinking the X only has to do with double plays. I don't think it turns the pop out into an out by itself. Could be, but that's why I'm going to reference the rules real quick just to make sure that I know what's going on here. No, I just reference if it's a ground ball, it's a possible double play. It has no effect on the pop out. So the pop out's going to stay what it is. Pop out to third. The X had nothing to do with that. So pop out to third. Blue is out, and we're back to the top of the order for Bill North. Bill North. First time up for him. He walked and stole a base, but got stuck at second. We get a 65, and that's a home run chance for Bill North. But you notice North didn't hit that many home runs, so he's got a -5 here on his card. So that's going to take Tom Seaver's home run chances and deduct 5 from them. Normally, he'd be a home run 1 to 12 for his C grade, but that's going to drop by 5. He's now a 1 to 7. That's an 18, so that failed either way you go, so it's a fly out to center field. But it could have taken a home run away from North by the fact he was -5. But the D20 was so high it was out of range anyway. But that is simply going to be a fly out center field for Bill North. Now, it's not defaulted to center field, but with the 18 on the D20, that is a default fly out center field. So that's why I said that. Failed home runs on the ballpark card go to fly out to center field by default, but failed home runs on this chart go to whatever the D20 says. All right, so here's Whitfield. 2 out, space is empty. That's an 11. So he will walk on a 1 to 16. That's a 7. So Whitfield will draw the 2 out walk. There is no plus sign there, so he will not get a chance to steal, but he will get on base with the base on balls and turn it over to Bill Madlock, the chance to drive him home. Bill Madlock. Still sees funny in 1979 seeing him with the Giants because I'm so used to him with the Pirates, but that didn't come along until later. 32. 32 is a blank on Madlock. We go to 32 under Seaver. On his C grades, it's a double if the D20 is a 1 to 6. That's a 13, so there's no double. It will be an out, and we use the 13 as your guide on the bases out empty chart. Or 13, he's a righty, so that's going to be a ground ball to short, and that will end the inning. I'm sorry, it was a runner on first, not bases empty. My bad. But that's probably the same result. 13. Yep, ground ball to short, so it doesn't matter. The only difference was it was a possible double play with less than 2 outs, but there were already 2 outs. So it is a ground ball to short. And that will take us to the bottom of the third. For the Fall Classic veterans out there that are watching this and sticking with me through this, I appreciate any feedback you can give me to let me know that what rule I might have skipped over or maybe misinterpreted. I don't think I'm misinterpreting anything, but I want to get that feedback because I want to get it right. When the game of the week starts, I want to be going on all cylinders. I don't want to be questioning myself. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. Is twofold purpose. One is to help people who've never seen the game before get comfortable with it, and 2, to help me to make sure I'm doing it right. All right, Dave Concepcion, who homered his first time up, the only run of the game. He steps up again, 25, and that will be a straight up out. That's a 5. So we go to our bases empty out chart, number 5, and it's a ground ball to third base. So since he's a right-handed hitter. If he had been a lefty, that would have been a ground ball to first, but instead it's a ground ball to third. Concepcion is out of there. And we move on to Joe Morgan. Little Joe. Morgan grounded to, he got a base hit his first time up. That's a 56. 56 is out of, it's a blank on Morgan. We go to Vita Blue in a B grade. 56 is a strikeout. So Vita Blue strikes out Joe Morgan, out number 2 of the inning. And we move on to George Foster. So Foster is up with 2 outs and the base is clear. Oh, that one die didn't go through, so let's re-roll that again. We get a 64. That's a blank on Foster. 64 Vita Blue is an out, and that's a 4. So as you might expect, on a 4, it's a ground ball to second because it's taking the position of the fielder, which is second baseman in baseball scorekeeping is a 4. So it is a 4-3 ground out to end the inning. So 3 innings are in the books. And it's still 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. And we will head to the top of the 4th and due up for the Giants. We will have Jack Clark to lead things off. Clark grounded to third his first time up. Almost 50 minutes into the video. We're only starting the 4th inning, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Had to lay a lot of groundwork. All right, here's Clark. 43. That's a blank. We go to Seaver on his C grades. 43 is still going to be an out. That's a 6. You might imagine it's a ground ball to short because shortstop is the number 6 fielder. And that's exactly what you get. No surprises there. 6-3 ground out, and Jack Clark is out of there. Brings up Darrell Evans. He struck out his first chance. And between each at bat, I'm going to the Action PC computer to score it so that I can give a recap and make sure I don't mess anything up on my score sheet. Want to have backup. So here's Darrell Evans, 43, and that's a blank. So we go to Seaver, C grade, 43, and that's an out. It's a 17. You might expect it to fly to left, and sure enough, on a 17, that is a fly to left field. So there's 2 down as George Foster hauls it in. And that takes us to Mike Ivy. So Seaver, despite being on a C grade, is pitching pretty well. 31 is an out. Now, by rule, that's a single. Now, what I like to do, I incorporated this, or I got this from the Replay Gamer. He figures, I think through some research, they figured that the offense was a little bit too high compared to real world stuff. So anytime we roll a 31, and this is not in the rule book, this is home rule, so take it with a grain of salt. Normally, that'd just be a single and be done with it. But I'm following what the Replay Gamer said, and when that happens, we make it a range play instead. So I'm going to treat this as if 31 was actually a 53. So to avoid giving them an automatic hit, they got to earn it on a range play. So we're going to roll for a range play. We get a 34, which is the range check of the shortstop, Dave Concepcion. Could be an infield single if he doesn't make the range play. So we go to Concepcion, look at his range at shortstop. His range is only a 10. That's a 17, so it's going to get through for a base hit either way we go. But he likes to use, when I say he, the Replay Gamer likes to use the range check, and so I've kind of adopted that. If I see somebody else playing something and I see a little tweak that they make that I like, I'll adopt it. But I'll give credit to where credit is due. That was his thought process and his creation. So 2-out single now, and here's Mark Hill. 41 is blank on Hill. Seaver 41 on his C grade is a base on balls. So after getting the first 2 out, Seaver having a little bit of issues with a single and now a walk. And now 2 are on with 2 outs. But it's going to be the light-hitting Roger Metzger at the plate. Still can get some base hits, just doesn't have any power. But doesn't mean he can't get a single. So Roger Metzger, 33, does get that single. And there's a plus sign there too as well. So there's a run on first already. So if Mark Hill happens to be able to make third on the play, then that means we'll have to steal with Roger Metzger. If the base hit determines only a 1 base advancement, then of course that will be taken out of the equation. So the way to do that is we go to our first and second chart, and on the back side of the out chart is the hit chart. And again, we use the D20 to determine what happens. So D20, it says infield holds at third. If less than 2 out, scored if it's a fast runner. Well, Ivy is not a fast runner. If he was a fast runner, he would have scored. But Mike Ivy, look at his card, he's an average runner. So that means it's just going to load the bases. And since it loads the bases, Metzger cannot have a chance to steal because runners are in front of him. So it just loads the bases now for Vida Blue is all that did. So the Reds actually catch a little bit of a break on the D20 that it was just a 1 base advancement on an infield hit and not a base hit to the outfield. The bases are loaded now, 2 outs for Vida Blue. All this happening with 2 outs. Seaver got the first 2 outs, no problem. 51, that's going to be an error check. But we always go to the KD before we do the error check. And the KD is a 1 to 2, and that happens to be a 1. So instead of going to the error check, Seaver has got the strikeout on that KD. So that's one where the KD comes into play and the D20 saved his bacon. Instead of going to a possible error check, it's overridden by the KD. The fact this was a 1 or a 2 means it's a strikeout. If this was 3 or higher, we'd have gone to the error check. But in this case, it is a strikeout, and a huge one for Tom Seaver. It gets him out of the inning, and the Giants leave him loaded. So we go to the bottom of the fourth, still 1-0. Both pitchers have pretty good fatigue numbers, so if they're effective, they may pitch double complete games. It's hard to tell. But right now, Vida Blue is back out there, and he'll be facing Johnny Bench. We get a 52. That's a range check again, but actually it's an error check. But the KD comes into play again. Vida Blue on his B grades, his KD is 1-3. But in this case, the D20 is a 4, so he cannot stop it. We are going to the defensive chart for an error chance based on the 52. We're doing an error chance. You see, I got a little note here, check KD first. Always want to check that KD number. If he was on his A grades, that would have been a 1-4, and that would have been a strikeout. But since he's on his B grades, not going to do it. So I'm going to re-roll all 3 dice. The 34 says on the error check, we're checking the second baseman for an error, and that's Bill Madlock. I'm sorry, that's Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan, we're checking him for an error chance. That's a 15. So if his error rating is a 15 or higher, he will make an error. Let's see, Joe Morgan, his error rating is only a 5. So 15 does not fall within that, so there will be no error. Joe Morgan will make the play. So, I'm sorry, it is Madlock. I got confused again, didn't I? Because I forgot who's batting. It's actually Cincinnati batting. That's why I got the score sheet in front of me. So let's redo this now for Mr. Madlock. Second base, Madlock, his error rating is only a 6. So again, 15 falls outside of that, so Madlock makes the play. And there's one away. That's why I'm keeping score and keep it on the computer, so keep me straight to know who's doing what. So I make sure I have the right check on the right people. So Bench grounds to Madlock, and now here's Dan Dreesen. 66, that's just like an APA. That's usually a good thing. 66, a home run on a 1-9. The double die is a 1. So Dan Dreesen just goes deep and gives the Reds a 2-0 lead. Second solo home run of the game. This one, Dan Dreesen on the 66. The first time around, it was a 65 home run chance. This is a 66. If the double die had been a 10-13, it'd be a triple. 14 or higher would have been a double, but on a 1-9, Dreesen homers, and that is a 1. So Dan Dreesen just goes yard and gives the Reds a 2-0 lead. Now that sends up Rick Auerbach, third baseman. That's a 34. It's a blank. We go to Blue on his B grades. 34 is going to be a single. If he was on the A grades, it would have been an out, but he's on his B grades, so it's a base hit for Rick Auerbach. Auerbach gets a base hit, and with the bases empty, we don't need the D20 to figure out. I mean, if you want to play it that way, I guess you could. I think the replay gamer likes to use his imagination, so he's going to imagine that's a base hit to right field since that's a 9. But, you know, it depends on how deep in the woods you want to go, basically. But right now, we're just trying to keep it simple. So that's a base hit. And now here's Cesar Geronimo. 63, that's a blank for Geronimo. Blue on his B grade. 63 is an out. That's a 6. So we go to our runner on first out chart and look at the 6. Oh, let's bring it over where I can see it. Runner on first out chart and a 6. 6 says ground out to short, white die, runner advances. Otherwise, it's a double play, but a weak arm shortstop only gets the fielder's choice. So the white die is not a 1. So it looks like it's going to be a double play unless Roger Metzger has a weak arm. And according to this, Roger Metzger has an average arm. So he does not lose that double play. That will actually be a Giovanni's Tailor Shop tailor-made double play, 6-4-3, turned by the Giants to end the inning and keep the Reds at just 1 run. So we go to the 5th inning. The score now 2-0 Cincinnati. And leading things off would be the top of the order, Bill North. Tom Seaver has faced 18 batters. He can face 31, so he's in good shape as far as fatigue goes. Here's Bill North, rather. 54, so we're going to our 54 chart. 54 chart. And we're looking at the D20, which is a 6. With the bases empty. 6 says fly ball, refer to the D20. Fly ball, refer to the D20. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. All right, 1 to 6. Fly ball, refer to the D20. That should probably be, say, D6 because they're given 6 numbers here. So I'm thinking that's a 6. That's probably an error in the printing of the rule book here because that should be refer to the D6, not D20, because it doesn't make any sense. There's only 1 to 6 because you got to check to see who the outfielder is. So in this case, I'm going to just call it the white die of the result and refer to that and say it's the center fielder. So we're going to check the center fielder, Cesar Geronimo, for a possible error. So we're going to roll versus error rating of Geronimo. So we go to the error check. We go to Geronimo's defensive prowess. He's an E2. So the only way he makes an error is if the D20 is a 1 or a 2. Otherwise, he will make the play. And 3, he barely makes the play, but he does. So Geronimo runs it down, doesn't bobble it. He makes the play, and Bill North is retired. And if some of the experts out there can let me know if I misinterpreted that, but to me, just looking at this, it says refer to D20, but you're actually referring to these here to see who fields it. So I think that's kind of a misprint there. Although it says it down here too. Oh, no, wait a minute. You know what? I did do that incorrectly. It's a 1 to 6 roll. So depending on what the roll was on the D20 originally, that's what we're checking. All right. Now I got to remember what the original roll was. So let backtrack what I just did. So since I don't know what the original roll was, I'm going to re-roll it because I've already picked it up and used it. So I'm going to re-roll it. And that's an 11. All right. Let's see here. No, I'm sorry. 11 is going to be whether we're checking for the error or not. We're going to roll. Well, no, it has to be 1 to 6 because that's what I had. So I'm going to roll this until I get a 1 to 6, maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck now. I'm in a bad bind because I messed it up. So let me get to 1 to 6 if I can ever find it. There we go, 6. Okay. So that means since it's a 6, we're checking the right fielder. So we're actually going to be checking Ken Griffey, his error chance, not the error chance of Geronimo. I apologize for the error. His error rating is a 4. So we're going to re-roll. 1 to 4, he makes an error. 5 or higher, he makes the play. And we get a 7, so thank goodness he made the play. But it's actually a fly to right, not a fly to center. So I apologize for the confusion there. I kind of got ahead of myself. When I rolled the die to get to the 54, I should have referenced the original D6, which I don't know what it was, but it obviously had to be a 1 to 6 because that's why I came here. And that would tell me which fielder I'm checking on. And then we re-roll for the error rating. So I apologize for that snafu, but that's, like I said, I'm not an expert by any means, but I think I know what I'm doing. But sometimes, get a little fast in what you're trying to do. And the important thing is hopefully I corrected the situation. And so important thing is when you play this thing, don't do what I did. Don't grab the dice up hastily. Leave them there because you might need that number to figure out what's going on. And unless you got a good memory and remember what it was, which I do not have a good memory and I do not remember what it was. So here we go, Terry Whitfield. 66. That's going to be a straight out double. No D20 needed because there's no split there. It's a straight out double for Terry Whitfield. So Whitfield hits a 1-out double. Here I'm supposed to be explaining how to play the game, and I'm making a mistake. So, but like I said, fortunately I caught myself. So Terry Whitfield with a double, and that brings up Bill Madlock. He's grounded to short twice. That's a 56. 56 is blank on Madlock. We go to Seaver under his C grades. 56 is still a strikeout. So Seaver gets the strikeout on Madlock, 2 outs. And now it's going to be up to Jack Clark with Whitfield sitting at second base to try to get this done. Jack Clark. And Clark is grounded out twice. 61, that's a blank. We go to Seaver. 61 on his C grades is another strikeout. And that will end the inning. So despite being on his C grade, Seaver has tossed 5 shutout innings. And the Reds still lead the Giants by the score of 2-0. Well, I hate messing something up, but at least I'm glad I got it corrected. I just don't like the... if I had a way to edit this video, I'm not good at video editing, but if I had a way to edit that, I would redo it and delete that part out where I got it wrong. But maybe sometimes it's good to watch somebody get it wrong and then fix it. Maybe there's some benefit to that. Hopefully there is. And it certainly benefited me because now I got to make sure that one takeaway is don't grab the dice too fast. I've got a bad habit of grabbing dice too fast. All right, here is Tom Seaver. He had a sacrifice bunt his first time, but of course, leading off, he's not going to do that now. We get a 52, and that's going to be a defensive check, but we can check the KD, but the 16 is way above the 1-3. So we are going to the 52, which is an error check. So we are going to check the error, and we're going to re-roll and see who the error check is going to be on. That's a 13. So 13, we're checking the error of the center fielder, Bill North, what his error rating is, and 12 is the number we're using. So we go to Bill North, and I'll show it on the card versus the defensive sheet. So look at Bill North's error rating. His error rating is only a 4. So since 12 doesn't fall within the 1-4, he will make the play. So Bill North makes the play. No error involved. And Seaver is out. And now that takes us back to the top of the order for Ken Griffey. I was going to try to show the action PC while I'm doing this, but I want this to be as analog as possible so we can focus on gameplay and what to do and not worry about presentation. So Ken Griffey is up. Griffey is 0 for 2. That's a 56, which is going to be a blank here. Vita Blue 56 is a strikeout. So down on strikes goes Ken Griffey. 2 quick outs, and here comes Concepcion. He homered to start the scoring back in the first inning. And after that, he grounded to third. Only other at bat. That's a 35. That's a blank. 35 under Vita Blue is an out. That's a 1. So with the base is empty and a 1, you would think it's back to the pitcher, but not necessarily. Let's check it out just to be sure. But in fact, it is a ground ball back to the pitcher. So it's just a ground ball back to Vita Blue. Easy 1-2-3 inning. Down go the Reds. We go to the 6th. It is still 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Both pitchers pitching well, despite neither one being on their A grade. Seaver's on his C grade and Blue is on his B grade. But sometimes you can do that. It just depends on the luck of the dice. All right, Darrell Evans will lead things off. Evans, 0 for 2 with a strikeout. 33, that's a base hit on a 1-4, or it's a walk on higher 5 or 20. Well, we got an 11, so that's going to be a walk. Now, this is interesting here because Had we gotten a single in a 1-4, he would be forced to try to steal. But since he got the walk, that plus does not apply over here. It only applies to this section. So he will not have to try to steal. He will just simply get a walk, which helps out the Giants because they're down 2-0. You don't want them stealing. But that's what that is. That's a split chance, and the plus only applies to that single result, not the walk result. So leadoff walk it is, and that's going to bring up Mike Ivy, first baseman. Mike Ivy, 1 for 2 with a single. We get a 51, so that's again an error check, but if we check the KD, that's a 20. So obviously that's way above the 1 to the 2 that we need there. So we are going to the error chart. Again, the error chart under the 51. We're looking right here. Re-roll for the error. That's a 13. We're checking the error on the pitcher. We're checking an error on Tom Seaver. Well, luckily we got the card right here. We can tell you what the error is. That's a 3. His error rating is a 9. So that means he will make the error because the 3 falls into the 1 to 9 category. So since he's got a 9 error rating, that 3 fits. So it will be an error. We go back to the original 13, and it says error P with a asterisk. So that means batter safe at first, all runners advance 1 base. So it's a 1 base error on Tom Seaver. And now runners are at first and second with nobody out. And once again, the Giants have possibly something cooking. Coming to the plate is Mark Hill. Mark Hill has walked both times he's been to the plate. Seaver has to bear down against Mark Hill. That's a 12. 12 is an out. There's an X. That means there's a possible double play out of this. That's a 12. 12. We go to runner at first and second chart, which I just had handy. There it is. Runners at first and second, and 8 is a fly out to center field. So we're not worried about wait a minute, it says out X. Then it's always double play ground ball. So I'm thinking now that I'm looking at this, it says here, oh, it's only if the X is up here. Okay. So since we got a fly to center, that doesn't apply to the ground ball out. But say, for instance, say the D20 was a 4 and you have the X here. That means it doesn't matter what this other stuff is. The fact that he had an X there means he always hits into the double play in those occasions. But in our situation, it's a fly to center for the out. Now, let's see if the runner can advance. Sometimes on these flyouts, the runners can advance. It says fly out center field, runner holds. White die 1, a fast runner will go from second to third, but the white die is a 2. So that means the runner on second, Evans, he's not fast anyway. But had he been fast and the white die been a 1, he could have moved up another base. But in this case, no problem. Just a shallow fly to center, can of corn, and there's 1 away. So again, the result would have had to have been a ground ball to begin with to invoke that double play on the X. So fly out to center, you just stick with that. Here's Roger Metzger. And this just takes time to practice and learn. 53, that's going to be a range check, but we check the KD. 9 is higher than the 2, so we do go to the range check. Reroll all 3 and see who the range check is going to be on. This could be a big fielding chance. 46. So a 46 says we're checking the range of Joe Morgan at second base. The range of Joe Morgan at second base. That's a 6. If Joe Morgan's range is higher than 6, he will make the play. Joe Morgan's range is a 7. He barely got it, but he did get it. So since he got it, we will look on our chart. Since he got it, runners are at first and second. So it says here, runners on first and second. If D20 is odd, it's a double play ground ball. D20 is even. So since it's even, fielder's choice at second, other runner goes to third. So it's going to be a 4 to 6 fielder's choice to get the 1 out. Metzger reaches, and going to third is Evans, but now there are 2 outs. So they couldn't turn the double play, but they do at least get the fielder's choice. But runners are at the corners now with 2 outs for Vida Blue. And here's where the National League game gets a little interesting. You'd like to have a pinch hitter here, but Blue's pitching pretty well. He's your ace, so I think you're just going to have him swing away, and that's just the way it is. And you don't have the DH. When you have the DH, the only concern you have with the pitcher is when to take him out. But now you could take him out for a pinch hitter and try for a big inning, but I think we're still just in the 6th, so he's only pitched 5 innings. I don't want to take him out after just 5 innings. So we're going to have him hit. And people may disagree with that strategy. I don't know, but that's what we're doing. 26, and he gets the base hit on the left-right split. What do you know about that? How about that? Don't bring in a pinch hitter. We get a 26, and he gets the base hit based on the fact that he's a switch hitter as a pitcher. How do you like that? Base hit, that's going to score Darrell Evans. The Giants are on the board. We'll check the hit chart with runners at the corners and see if the runner on first can get to third base. We go to our hit chart, first and third. That's a 6, and it says it's hit to right field, advances to third of a faster active runner. So if it's a faster active runner, if 2 out, all advance. Okay, so since there's 2 outs, everybody advances. So Metzger will make third because there were 2 outs. He gets that boost. So basically, to use the Strat-O-Matic term, it's a single star. Cuts the lead to 2-1. Puts runners on the corners again with 2 outs for Bill North. So how about that? Mr. Vida Blue helping his own cause with that base hit. Blue on the actual season hit 120, which is about average for a pitcher. He did have 3 runs batted in, so not totally out of the question that would happen. Here's Bill North. 42. That's going to be blank. We go to Seaver on the C grades. 42 is going to be a walk, and that's going to load the bases. Seaver getting in all kinds of problems now. Bases are loaded with Giants, and coming up is Terry Whitfield. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Whitfield has walked and doubled. He's also lined to first, so he's 1 for 2. But his last hit was a double, or his last at bat was a double. 21, though, is going to be an out. And it's an 18. Bases are loaded, 2 outs, so you can figure 18, it ends in 8, so that tells you center fielder. But if you want to know for sure, go to the out chart with the bases full. Look at number 18, and 18 says fly out to center. Since it's the 3rd out, we don't worry about tagging up or anything like that. It's simply a fly to center. And Seaver gets out of the rest of the jam. 1 run does score, but it certainly could have been worse for him. We go to the bottom of the 6th. It's now Cincinnati 2 and San Francisco 1. Giants have left 10 runners on base. That might come back to get them later as they leave them loaded right there. So we got Morgan, Foster, and Bench due up here in the bottom of the 6th. Bottom of the 6th. 55 for Morgan. That's a 1 as a triple. 2 to 6 is a double. Anything higher than 6 is a single. That's a 2. It'll be a double for Joe Morgan. The D20 is a 2, so it falls into that 2 to 6 range, and Joe Morgan leads off with a double. Had we gotten a 7 or higher on this, that would have been a single, and Joe Morgan would have had to try to steal with that plus sign. But he didn't need to steal second. He already made it with the double. So Joe Morgan gets himself a leadoff double. And maybe the Reds trying to get that run back. Here's George Foster. That's a 64, which is blank. We go to Vida Blue. 64 is an out. That's a 1. So we go to runner on second, out chart, and look at the 1, which usually says pitcher, but we'll double check it, make sure. So we go to the runner on second, out chart, and a 1. And it says ground out to pitcher, runners hold. Weak arm pitcher, runners advance. So Vida Blue has a weak arm. How about that? Vida Blue has a weak arm, so that means Morgan's going to make it to third base because Blue had a weak arm. So it's a ground out, but Morgan will take third because of the weak arm. And now that's going to cause the infield to have to come in. Since Morgan took third base now with only 1 out, that was huge having Vida Blue only have a weak arm. The fact he had a weak arm caused that runner to be able to advance. So here's Johnny Bench now. The infield is in. They want to choke that runoff as best as possible. Bench on the day has walked and grounded to second. Get these things straightened out here a little bit. And I hope my camera's doing, my webcam is doing okay with this focus. It's supposed to be autofocus, but I don't know. It looks a little blurry on my side. I don't know. Maybe it's just my eyes. All right, here we go. 16, and that's an out with an X. That's a 4. So let's look at the runner on third out chart and see what it says with the infield in. So we got runner at third, out chart, and we get a 4. 4 says ground ball to second, runner advances. In, he holds. So it says here, it says H below. So we go down here to H, and it says holds third if playing infield in. But can run with risk, 1 to 3 safe, 4 to 6 out. Okay, so here's, we're going to do this just so we can show the run with risk category. So we're going to run with risk. 1 to 3, he's safe. 4 to 6, he's out at the plate. If he's safe, batter safe at first on the fielder's choice. So Johnny Bench has hit one. Johnny Bench has hit one to the second baseman, Bill Madlock. He was playing in, but Joe Morgan says, you know what? I'm going to try to score anyway. So in the infield in, he would normally hold at third, but it says can run with risk. So we roll 1d6. If it's a 1 to 3, he's safe. 4 to 6, he's out. He's out. So he tried to score, and Madlock nailed him at the plate. Goes 4 to 2, and Bench reaches on the fielder's choice. So the 50-50 shot. Figure, why not? Because the next batter doesn't have a 50% chance of getting a base hit. So a fielder's choice, and he is out at home. Going to first is Bench, but now they're 2 away for Dan Dreesen. Just the luck of the D6 there. 65, we're looking at a home run chance. That's a 12. Ida Blue's home run in his B grade is a 1 to 13, so that's gone. There is no adjustment there. There's no minus there. So Dan Dreesen, who had 18 home runs on the real season, hits his second home run of the game. He had a home run his last at bat. So Dan Dreesen, I believe he found the home run on a 1 D20 last time. Now he gets it down here. So a 2-run home run for Dan Dreesen, and the Reds cash in anyway, despite having the Morgan thrown out at the plate. They cash in anyway to increase the lead to 4 to 1. What a clutch at bat for Dan Dreesen. Obviously, he's right now the player of the game. Here is our bat. 63, that's a blank. We go to Vida Blue. 63 is an out. That's a 20. And with the bases empty out chart and a 20, it's by the white die, which is a 3, and it says line out to the white die, which is the first baseman. So he's going to line it to Mike Ivy, and that will end the inning. But the 2-run home run off the bat of Dan Dreesen gives the Reds a 4 to 1 lead as we get to the top of the 7th. It's starting to get a little darker outside, so I might need a light on in here. Let's see. Might be better with a light here. Possibly. Might do better now with the, because it was sunny out, but now it's starting to. We're supposed to get a storm later this afternoon, so looks like maybe the clouds are coming in now, and there's not much light coming through the window. So now we switch it to a night game. How about that? The lights have been turned on here at Riverfront. All right, so here's Bill Madlock, and I hope there's not too much glare. That's the problem. I don't want glare on the cards, but I want to be able to see as well. So here's Madlock. 12 for Madlock is an out X, but we're not worried about double play because it's the first out of the inning, and that's a 7. And as you can figure it out, bases empty, 7 by scorekeeping is the left fielder, and that's exactly what he does. He flies it to left field, and George Foster puts it away. So Foster flies out to left field. 1 down for Jack Clark. Clark is 0 for 3, 2 groundouts and a strikeout. So he could certainly use one. 66. You want to talk about using one? There you go. We'll bring it up a little closer with this glare, and I'll mess up the glare. 1 to 19 is a home run. That's a 1. It's gone. Jack Clark. He had 26 home runs in the real season. He's got one right here on opening day. Jack Clark crushes a home run. Luckily for Seaver, it's just a solo shot, so it's only going to make it a 4-2 game. Usually pitchers that give up solo home runs do okay. It's the 3-run homers that do you in. So here's Darrell Evans now as Clark deposited that on Seaver. Evans, 31. And again, that's going to be a single, but again, using the Replay Gamers mod to that, we're going to make it a range check. Since it's a 31, we're going to a range check. And the D20 has nothing to do with the KD on the range check. We don't do that on the 31 because this is not part of the actual rules. This is a homebrew, so we're going to the range check. We get a 66. So it's a range check on Concepcion, the shortstop. Concepcion, the shortstop, his range check. That's an 18, so that's liable not to be caught because 18 is pretty high. You have to have a darn good range to prevent that. So at shortstop, Concepcion's range is only a 10, so that's going to get through for a base hit. It's a failed range play. So if we look up here, the original roll was a 66. It's a single on a liner to left, and there's a plus sign there. So it says batter safe at first, runners advance 2 bases, but nobody's on base. So it's just doesn't mean he has to steal. That the plus sign doesn't relate to that. It only relates to there's a single. So since nobody, if it just says if there was a runner on base, they would have gotten a second base out of it. But Evans gets the single past Concepcion. And now here's Mike Ivy. And now Seaver is just about at the point of fatigue. As we look, I wasn't paying attention to his batters faced. Let's see, he's faced 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 30. He's faced 32 batters. Since he surpassed his batter and he has given up a single, he goes from his C grades to his D grades. Now, you're saying, what the heck is a D grade? There's no D grade on the card. C is as good as you can get there. Where there is a D grade involved, if you want to leave your pitcher in there that long, might not be suggestible. I don't know. Now, remember what the D grade was a second ago, and now I'm drawing a blank on it, so I'm looking at the rules just to be sure. I'm thinking something about, all right, see below. All right, here we go, grade D. Grade D, and I'll show it in this little book here. Hopefully it shows up without being too much glare on it. Let's see if I can get it to fit in here. Might need to move the dice tray out of the way. But we're looking at D grades. D grades, right where my thumb is. Grade D. It says for shelled or fatigue pitchers, 31, I'll bring it a little closer, 31, 32, 34 to 36 are always singles now, and 41 to 43 and 45 are always walks. No more strikeouts in the 56 to 64 range. They are now outs. So that's what happens when you get to a D grade. Now the question is, do they want to keep Seaver in his D grades or not? You might want to go to the bullpen. I think they're going to give him one more batter. Actually, I'd like to get him out of the inning if they possibly could, because he's scheduled to bat second next inning. So we're going to have him pitch to Mark Hill and see what happens. See if that cost him. 15 is going to be an out, so that's irrelevant to the D grade at all, but it's an out. And the out is a 6 with a runner at first. So we'll go to runner on first out chart and find out what the 6 result is. I just had the runner on out first out chart. Now I can't find it. Got hidden behind something else, I got a feeling. Yeah, the 54 chart was covering it up. All right, so we get a 6. And it says ground out to short, white die 1, runner advances. The white die is a 5. It's going to, otherwise it's a double play unless the shortstop has a weak arm. So the shortstop Concepcion, I don't believe has a weak arm, but we'll double check it. We will double check Concepcion here. His arm is actually average A. So it will be a double play. And that will get Seaver out of the inning. 6-4-3 Giovanni's Tailor Shop tailor-made double play. Gets him out of the inning, but that's going to be it for Tom Seaver. We're going to cap Tom Seaver at 7 innings. And they will get a pinch hitter for Seaver as well. So Seaver pitches 7 innings, gives up just 2 runs, so certainly a quality start for him. Blue is coming back out. Blue has faced just 25 batters. He can face 34. Most of his damage has been done by home runs, not by base runners. So, with that being the case, it's Geronimo followed by a pinch hitter. So first of all, we'll have Geronimo. And we're going to need a pinch hitter for the Reds. We go to their bench. And since Vida Blue's a lefty, we're probably looking at a righty. So we do have possibly Junior Kennedy. We have possibly Ray Knight. We have possibly this guy I've never heard of, Arturo De Freitas. And we have Vic Carell, the backup catcher. You usually don't want to use your backup catcher. You do have a switch hitter in Dave Collins, or you have a lefty in Champ Summers. So I'm thinking Ray Knight probably is the guy I'm going to go to, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, first of all, to Geronimo. If he reaches, you might bunt, and you might find a better bunter. Or you might like Seaver go ahead and bunt, since he's a good bunter. Right now, Blue facing Geronimo. 63 for Blue is going to be an out on his B grades. That's an 18, so anything 17, 18, 19, it goes to the outfield. 7, 8, 9, same result, so it's a fly out to center. And now we'll bring in a pinch hitter for Tom Seaver, and it will be Ray Knight. So Ray Knight will get the call to pinch hit. He will pinch hit, and then we'll figure out who the new pitcher is going to be for Cincinnati in the top of the 8th. Here's Knight. 63, that's a blank on Knight. 63 is going to be another out. That's a 9, so that's a fly ball to right field. So Ray Knight flies to right field in the pinch hitting duties. 2 up, 2 down. And we go back to the top of the order for Ken Griffey. Vida Blue is set to bat 3rd next inning, so this will be his last inning. 26th, and again, that's the left-right split. But in this instance, Ken Griffey would normally have had a single on a 26, but since Vida Blue doesn't throw right-handed, it flips to an out. It flips to an out, and that's a 17, so it flies to left. And that will end the inning. And that's going to do it for Vida Blue. So fly out to right field ends the inning on that left-right split that went awry for Griffey. And now we go to the top of the 8th. The Reds will need a new pitcher, as will the Giants in the bottom of the 8th. And the Giants will also need a pinch hitter as well. So let me get the Reds bullpen and see who they want to go to. That's step 1. I'll show you who they have available on the opening day roster. It could be Frank Pastore, could be Fred Norman, could be Pedro Borbon, Dave Tomlin, or Doug Baer. Coming up for the Giants, it is going to be Mark Hill, a righty, followed by Metzger, a switch. So they're going to probably go to a right-hander. And it looks like they're going to go ahead and not mess around. Just go to their closer, Doug Baer, because after all, this is 1979. He can pitch 2 innings to get a save. So they will go to Doug Baer. There will be no need for a double switch because Baer is 8 spots away in the batting order. So Doug Baer is going to come on and try to save it for Cincinnati. On the 79 season, Doug Baer did have 16 saves. So it is Doug Baer coming on to pitch, and he'll be facing Mark Hill to start the top of the 8th. You get a third, and again, that's going to be another. Oh, first of all, you know what I forgot to do? See, I got ahead of myself. We're going to keep the 31 result, but I forgot to do a bullpen check for Bayer. Got to do that every time. He's an A grade, so we're using an A grade pitcher, but it's still a range check since we got the 31. So we are going to go to the range check. I didn't want to make that original roll null and void. Nothing wrong with that roll. So we are going to a range check on someone. Let the dice tell us who. 21 on a range check. 21 is a center field range check. Center field range check. And that's a 20. So most likely you're not going to have a center fielder. I know Geronimo covers a lot of ground out there, but I don't think he covers a 20 ground. You're looking at Willie Mays here doing that. So Geronimo, where'd you go, Geronimo? Now I can't find his card for some reason. So we'll go to the defensive chart. Geronimo in center field, his range is only 11, so the 20 definitely doesn't fit there. So on the 21, that's a double. Because he couldn't make the play, it's a double. So it's a leadoff double for Mark Hill. Mark Hill, a leadoff double. Leadoff double. And again, we don't, when I change this to a range play, we're ignoring the KD. We're not worried about the KD because that was not something that came up originally. This is a homebrew, so that's why we do that. So it's going to be a double for Mark Hill. Wow, it puts a double on the closer right away. And now it's going to bring up Roger Metchker. Get a 15, that's an out. That's a 6. So we go to runner on second out chart. And we're looking at the 6 to see what we got. It's usually shortstop, you would think. But we've got to find out whether that runner on second goes anywhere. Ground out shortstop, runner holds. Let's see here. We don't have an out rating of 56 to 64, so we're not doing that. So it's a 6-3 ground out, runner holds, basically. Simple as that. Grounds out 6-3, and Mark Hill will have to hold at second base. And now we're getting a pinch hitter for Vita Blue. And now we're going to the Giant bench to see who the pinch hitter might be. And we'll look at their particular pinch hitters. Doug Bayer is a right-handed pitcher. So the guy that makes the most sense to me right off the bat is old stretch, Willie McCovey. We're going with Willie McCovey off the bench to pinch hit here in the 8th inning. So Willie McCovey will be brought in. See what he can do. McCovey with Hill at second and 1 out. That's a 24. That's a hit by pitch on a 1-2. I know the glare's there, so let me bring this up a little higher. 24, 1-2 is a hit by pitch. That's a 12. So it's not going to be a hit by pitch, so it defaults to an out. It defaults to an out. Now, some people use the 12 for the out, but in my mind, I've already used the D20 to determine the hit by pitch or not. So in my mind, I'm going to re-roll the D20. I'm not sure if the rules state one way or the other, but I just like to be consistent. And my philosophy is if I've already used this to check on a hit by pitch, then I want to, because if you don't re-roll it, then that means you can never get a 1 or a 2 on the out play. And I want all the outs to be in play. And we get a 8, which is a fly to center. So that's 2 away. Now let's see if the runner can move up. I don't think he can, but we'll check it. White die 1. Runner can run with risks. The white die was a 1. The white die was a 1. No, it wasn't. Couldn't have been a 1. Because the 21 would have been a strikeout, so it couldn't have been a 1. Not sure. So I'm just going to say he holds. So he holds at second base. Mark Hill's a slow runner. I don't think he would try anything anyway. So there's 2 away for Bill North. He's already in scoring position. So Bill North, that's a 25. And sometimes, like I said, some batters get the splits on the 25 and 26. Bill North, being a switch hitter, only gets the 26. So 25 is an out. That's a 7, so it's a fly to the left, and that's going to end the inning. So the leadoff double by Mark Hill doesn't amount to anything. Doug Baer pitches out of the jam, and now the Giants will need a new pitcher for the bottom of the 8th. Due up for the Reds, it's Concepcion, Morgan, and Foster, so 2 righties and a lefty. So most likely we're looking at a right-handed reliever. Not going to use your closer because you're behind. So they could use Tom Griffin. He's a possibility. Let's see, who else do they have? Most of their relievers are left-handed. Just about all of them are left-handed. I think he's the only one that's right-handed. In fact, he is. Because they have the other relievers they have available, Dave Roberts, Gary Lavelle, and John Curtis. They are all left-handed. So we're going to the right-hander Tom Griffin. He will come in and pitch for Vida Blue. Tom Griffin. Don't know a whole lot about Tom Griffin, but he's in there to pitch, whether we know about him or not. No double switch. He'll just bat in the 9 position. So Concepcion will start us off here in the bottom of the 8th of a 4-2 ball game. At least this wasn't a blowout. I was so afraid this would be a blowout and people would be disinterested. But like I said, the game is the least important. This is mainly showing the mechanics. So we had a 32 and blank on Concepcion. Oh, we got, I did it again. We're going to keep the 32, but I'm going to re-roll the D20. He's on his A grades. So 32 A grade is an out, and we're going to re-roll for the out. It is a 5, which is a ground ball to third. See, I get ahead of myself sometimes, and I get ready to go for the next thing, and I forget to roll for the bullpen session. Got to remember to do that. All right, so Morgan is up. He doubled his last time up, but was thrown out the plate trying to score with the infield in. That's a 31. So again, we're going to the range play. Actually, we're not, because he's on his A grade. That's an out. So that's going to be a straight old out right here, because it was on his A grades. He was not on his B grades. And on his A grades, Tom Griffin on his A grades, at 31 is an actual out already. So we're going to keep the 12 there for the bases empty out. We'll go to bases empty out with a 12. And it's a pop-up to the white die, which is a 1. So it's a pop-up. Batter is left-handed, so he pops it up to third base. So he pops it up to Darrell Evans. 2 quick outs, and now for George Foster. So it only goes to a range play on our homebrew when it's a single, because we're trying to cut down on the offense, because rumor had it that this game was running kind of hot with extra offense. So we're trying to do what we can to kind of slow that down just a tad. 2 down, and here's George Foster. 56, and Tom Griffin's on his A grades. That's a strikeout for Tom Griffin. So he puts down the Reds with no problem. Again, I know the glare is probably a little bit bad on that. So 56 was a strikeout. So now we're going to the top of the 9th, last chance for the Giants. And they'll have numbers 2, 3, and 4 hitters coming up: Whitfield, Matlock, and Clark. So they got the guys they want up there. And if anybody gets on, Darrell Evans. They got 4 good hitters coming up that Doug Baer will have to work with. Let's see if I can reduce that glare somewhat. I don't know if I can or can't. Trying to make it softer lights. All right, here's Whitfield. 55 for Whitfield. We'll bring it up close so you can see it. 55, a 1 to 7 is a triple. 8 to 10 is a double. Anything else will be a single. That's a 13, so it's going to be a single for Whitfield. So Whitfield leads off the 9th with the base hit. There is no plus sign there, so he's not going to get a chance to steal. And down by 2 runs, you probably wouldn't steal him anyway. You don't want to run yourself out of an inning. So that will send up the dangerous Bill Madlock. Now Sparky kind of pacing a little bit, hoping Doug Bear can get it done. 32. 32 is blank. 32 is going to be an out. That's an 11. So we're going to runner on first chart with an 11 on the out. Runner on first, an 11. This has a lot of stuff to it. Ground out, white die. The white die is a 2, so it's ground out to the catcher. And it says fast or average runner advances to second. All right, so the runner on there is Whitfield. Is he fast or average? He is an average runner, so he will advance to second base. So all this other stuff about double plays and stuff is irrelevant because he went to second base. So it's going to be a ground out in front of the plate. Bench's only play will be to first. But when you're ahead by 2, you're not worried about the runner on base. You're worried about the batter. So he gets the shore out at first base. Going to second is Whitfield. But the guy at the plate is the one you're worried about. He's the tying run, and it happens to be Jack Clark, who just happened to homer his last time up. So you definitely have to worry about that if you are Doug Bear. 43, blank. We go to Bear. 43 is a walk on a 1-18. That is a walk. So Doug Bear pitched carefully to Clark, and maybe too carefully, because now the tying runs are on base for Darrell Evans. And Evans is certainly capable of driving some runs home, for sure. It does set up a double play if you want to think about it on the positive side. Bear now has faced 7 batters. He can face 10, so he's not tired yet. 63, and that's a strikeout, a big strikeout for Doug Bear. Second out of the inning, and now all he has to do to finish this ball game and earn the save is take care of Mike Ivy. Mike Ivy is your batter. Do the Giants want to pinch hit for Ivy is the question. Do they have anybody out there? Ivy's a 286 hitter, so we're probably not even going to worry about pinch hitting for him. I don't see any reason to do so. He's better than anybody on the bench, so we're going to stick with Ivy. It's Ivy or nothing here. First and second, 2 outs, top of the 9th of a 4-2 game. And we get a 54, wouldn't you know it? 54. And this time the KD has nothing to do with it because KDs aren't related to 54. So we're going to men on base. We are doing men on base with runners at first and second. So on the 54 chart, there's 2 sides to this. A front side, which mainly talks about bases empty with one runner on, but we flip it over to this side when we have runners at first and second. The D20 is a 2. So 2 says a line drive to first baseman, standing on bag, double play. Well, we don't have to worry about any double plays because that's the 3rd out of the inning. So Ivy lines it to Dreesen, and the ball game is over. The ball game is over on the line out to Dan Dreesen. And the ball game is over. 4-2, your final. Cincinnati over San Francisco. 4 runs, 6 hits, and an error for the Reds. 2 runs, 8 hits, and no errors for the Giants. If we look at the rest of the box score, the Giants left on 13 runners. The Reds only left on 3. There's your ball game right there, leaving on 13 runners. Remember, they left the bases loaded back in the 6th inning where they had a chance to add on to their what they already had, but they couldn't get it done. So there you go. Fall Classic. It wasn't, it wasn't the most, not even what the word is for it. It wasn't the cleanest game, maybe that's the right word for it. Wasn't the cleanest game out there. I did kind of catch myself a couple times. For you veterans out there, your Fall Classic veterans, please let me know what mistakes I made. I'm sure I made at least 1 or 2. I'm not talking about mistakes I corrected. I'm talking about mistakes that I made I didn't realize that I need to correct. But I think I got pretty much everything correct. I don't remember seeing, of course, when you're playing it, it's like, your eyes are, you're not focusing on what's going on. You need maybe you need outside eyes to catch errors. So that's always a possibility. But player of the game, and actually it was apropos that he caught the final out on a line out. But the player of the game is Dan Dreesen. His 2 home runs, he only hits 18 all year. He hits 2 here on opening day, and that provides the margin of victory. His 2-run homer in the 6th is the margin of victory for the Reds. So he is the player of the game, Mr. Dan Dreesen. And so that's going to do it from here. Again, Saturday, April the 4th, will be the first game in the NBC Game of the Week on Fall Classic. So I'm not sure when I'm going to post this. I'm recording this on Friday, March 27th. I may not post this till the 28th or 29th. I'm not sure when I'm going to post it. But anyway, Saturday, April 4th, it'll be the Phillies and the Cardinals opening day on the NBC Game of the Week. And just to show you, I was keeping score. There's my scorebook where I was keeping the score. And as it turns out, final score was 4-2. And, of course, the 2 home runs from Dan Dreesen were the difference. So, hope you all got something out of that. If you are a Fall Classic veteran, please let me know what I need, what I might have made a mistake on. I take no offense to being corrected. I want to be corrected because I want to get it right. And I want to make sure I'm playing the game correctly. So please let me know. I will not take offense. I mean, I guess if you call me like a dumbass or something, I might take offense. But if you just say, hey, buddy, you missed this one thing, that would be appreciated. So that's pretty much going to do it from here. We're going to wrap it up. We're at 1 hour and 52 minutes. So I think that's long enough. We made it under 2 hours, which I guess was kind of like my pseudo fallback, was to get through in less than 2 hours. We did that. Probably, thank goodness, because it was a low-scoring game. If it was a 10-9 game, no telling how long it would have went. But there you go. Fall Classic. Cincinnati Reds hold on and defeat the San Francisco Giants by the score of 4-2 at Riverfront Stadium. Reds and Giants. That's about the most accoutrements you're going to see in this video right here. The envelopes that I keep the cards in. So until next time, enjoy playing whatever game you choose to play, however you choose to play it, and I will see you all down the road. Have a good day, everybody.